Hello, thank you for tuning in to Kaieteur Radio. I'm Kevin Smith. These are the top stories we are tracking in your news at noon. Failure to audit Exxon's $9.5 billion US spending is criminal. Dr. Jailal says no excuse can absolve government of this grave sin. Savings from audits of Exxon's $9.5 billion US bill could have paid every citizen's income tax for 56 years, according to Roysdale Ford, and ex-Soku had turned self in to police and released on bail. Meanwhile, Guyana wants up to $54 billion US annually for forest services, 21-year jail term for man who pleaded guilty to killing diamond businesswoman, and Dr. Roach's death, a major setback for Cubans desirous of traveling to the U.S. Government has spent over $32 million for 3 outfalls in Quarantine and Berbice, and a task force shuts down 2 unauthorized COVID-19 testing facilities. Stay tuned to stay informed.
Prime up and win. Digicel got me winning. Head keeps spinning. Prime up and win. Every day's a chance to win $500,000. Prime up and win $500,000 daily. Simply activate the Digicel Prime bundle and enter the draw to win $500,000 every day. We have $5 million up for grabs. Terms and conditions apply. Digicel, better together.
And now for the news in detail. Guyana's failure to audit Exxon's $9.5 billion US spending is tantamount to the government aiding and abetting the fleecing of Guyana's resources. This is according to Canadian-based Guyanese Dr. Jerry Jailal, who in a public statement said the recent revelations by Vice President Dr. Bharat Jagdeo, who oversees the oil and gas sector, that the $9.5 billion LISA 1 and 2 expenses have not been audited is tantamount to the government aiding and abetting the fleecing of Guyana's resources. As such, he was adamant, and I quote, "The sin of omission, of failure to do audits, is as bad as the sin of commissioning of wrongdoing, and that no excuse can absolve the government of this grave sin against the nation." According to Dr. Jailal, this is not Exxon doing it to us. This is our own government doing it. He suggested that Guyana, at the beginning of its oil journey, is already manifesting the resource curse syndrome. In other news, had the PPPC government conducted a rigorous audit of ExxonMobil's $10 billion Stabroek Block bill, opposition member Roysdale Ford believes that at the very least, the country could have secured enough savings to cover citizens' personal income taxes at the 2020 level for nearly 56 years. By his calculations, Guyana could have recouped approximately $1.1 billion or $235.2 billion Guyana dollars from the audit of the oil giant's expenses in the prolific oil concession. With the foregoing in mind, Ford asserted that the citizenry has a clear picture of the magnitude of the government's failure to audit Exxon's costs within the 2-year limit prescribed in the Stabroek Block production sharing agreement. Expounding further, Ford said he is of the firm conviction that the potential savings from the audits could have prevented Guyana from having to beg nations such as China for loans to fund critical infrastructure and energy-related projects. In other news, former head of Soku, Sidney James, yesterday turned himself in to the police some 5 days after a wanted bulletin was issued for him. According to information, James turned himself in at the CID headquarters at Eve Leary, Georgetown, but was subsequently released on $300,000 bail, pending the outcome of the investigation. On November 3rd, the Guyana Police Force issued the wanted bulletin for the entity's former head in relation to allegations of obtaining money under false pretense and fraud. According to reports, the allegations against the entity's former head is that he forged the signature of his successor, Superintendent Althea Padmore, so that he could obtain almost $1.8 million. And moving on. Colin Grant, the man who pleaded guilty to killing Diamond East Bank Demerara businesswoman Sir Mati Ramnares, has been sentenced to 21 years in prison. The sentence was handed down yesterday at the High Court in Georgetown by Justice Joanne Barlow, weeks after Grant, who was originally indicted for murder, pleaded guilty to the lesser count of manslaughter. Grant had accepted that he committed a crime, while the court later freed his alleged accomplice, Colin Bailey, a former policeman, for lack of evidence. In handing down her sentence, Justice Barlow noted that while Grant had committed a capital offense which carries grave punishment, the case does not deserve maximum punishment. And moving on. Guyana's head of state, President Irfan Ali, and Vice President Dr. Bharat Jagdeo have in recent months been making a case for a carbon market for countries such as Guyana to be paid for its forest services provided to the world in the form of isolating carbon emissions from the atmosphere. To this end, the administration believes that Guyana's forests alone provide value that is estimated to range between 40 and 54 billion US dollars annually. These assertions were laid out in the administration's latest version of its Low Carbon Development Strategy 2030, which aims to build on its predecessor's policy document. The expanded LCDS outlines that Guyana has the second highest percentage of forest cover on Earth and is working with partners to sustain 99.5% of that forest while building the foundation for a new low-carbon ecosystem economy. And now let's tell you, the government of Guyana is expected to spend more than $32 million for the construction of 3 outfalls at Eversham, Jopa, and Adventure, all located at Quarantine Berbice. According to a Ministry of Agriculture advertisement, which states that the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority is inviting bids from suitably qualified and experienced bidders to undertake the projects. The 3 outfalls will be constructed for the November-December 2021 rainy season at the following locations: Eversham, Jopa, and Adventure, Quarantine Berbice. The estimated cost for the outfall at Adventure is $9.5 million, while it is estimated that the outfalls for Jopa and Eversham will cost $12.5 million each to construct. You're listening to Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. This is your news at noon. We will return after the break.
Kaieteur Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.
This is GHK Lal, inviting you to join me weekdays from Monday to Friday on the National Outlook for commentary on a range of issues, immediately after the 12 noon and 7 p.m. newscasts on Kaieteur Radio at 99.1 FM and 99.5 FM. Looking forward to you sharing in the conversation.
Welcome back. Let us continue with the news. The University of Guyana on Wednesday, November 3rd, entered into a tripartite agreement with the Guyana Oil and Gas Energy Chamber, or GOGEC, and CBMEX Energy Guyana, which would pave the way for more persons to be trained in the oil and gas sector, placing Guyana in a better position to take advantage, of opportunities in the budding sector. The Memorandum of Understanding, according to a UG release, was signed during a simple ceremony at the GOGEC head office at Middle Street, Georgetown. UG's Vice Chancellor, Professor Mohammed Martin, acknowledged that the university has recognized that the question for training in oil and gas is critical to the country. Guyana Oil and Gas Energy Chamber President, Mr. Maniram Prashad, noted that GOGEC is happy to collaborate with the university and CBMEX to foster closer relations and cooperation in training initiative. And now let's tell you, the brutal murder of Dr. Colin Roach is not only a tragic loss to his loved ones, since it is also being considered a major setback for Cuban nationals desirous of entering the U.S. as immigrants. Wilfredo Allen, a well-known immigration lawyer based in Miami, said the doctor's demise is somewhat of bad news for Cubans. According to Allen, Roach was a key doctor in Guyana who conducted medical examinations for Cubans traveling to America. The immigration lawyer explained that all immigrants must complete a medical examination before immigrating to the U.S. These examinations, he said, must be completed by a medical doctor, registered and accepted by the U.S. Department of State. Allen said that Roach was one of the only 2 doctors approved by the U.S. to conduct these medical examinations in Guyana. Roach was well known to the Cubans, and Allen related that he had never had any complaints about the doctor's medical reports and noted that all were readily accepted to the U.S. Embassy. In other news, the Guyana Tourism Authority, an arm of the Ministry of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, has received a whopping $417 million in this year's budget to aid in the development and promotion of the sector. This is according to the Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, Onij Waldron. Minister Waldron detailed some of her plans for the sector even as Tourism Awareness Month is observed. She said as part of the development and promotion of the sector, the ministry is seeking to commence a resort week where outdoor fans and lovers of nature can enjoy the wonders of Guyana. In addition to this, she noted that the ministry has been working along with the Guyana Tourism Authority to develop new experiential tourism products and will be co-launching 7 new products in Tourism Awareness Month. And now for a COVID-19 update, followed by the page 7 of the Kaieteur News. Several facilities which were conducting COVID-19 tests even though they are not authorized to do so, have been shut down by the National Task Force. This was revealed yesterday by Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony during a mental and well-being conference at the Arthur Chung Conference Center. He said that 2 of the facilities are located in Bartica Region 7 and Linden Region 10. Minister Anthony further explained that there are reports of facilities which would fabricate test results. Yesterday, the Ministry of Health reported that 3 more persons, a woman and 2 men, who tested positive for COVID-19 have died. As a result of this, the country's COVID-19 death toll has moved to 945. According to the ministry, the latest fatalities are that of an unvaccinated 56-year-old woman from Region 3 and 2 unvaccinated men, an 80-year-old and a 50-year-old from Region 4. 77 new cases were recorded, bringing the total number of confirmed cases in the country to 36,257. 12 patients are admitted into the ICU, 73 persons in institutional isolation, 2,541 in home isolation, and 5 in institutional quarantine. To date, a total of 32,713 persons have recovered from the virus. Guyana is doing so well that a government ministry can import a vehicle and leave it on the wharf. Guyana has that many millions to burn, which the facts confirm. Guyana has borrowed 10 times more in the first half of this year than it did in the same period in 2020. No wonder a government ministry can leave a multi-million-dollar vehicle to rot and unclaimed on the wharf. And with that, we've come to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise